So today I'm explaining how we can make an Ajax request back and forth to PHP file. So this is my HTML file where we have a h1 file with a div class of analyst estimate, and then a div class of analysis, and the div class of company profile, and some outputs and some table headers. What is important here is mainly the app.js file. And first here, with every Ajax, what you have to do is first you have to create a new object. So we create, this is what you see when the page loads up. I can show you an example of how the page looks like. So this is how the page looks like. It might be running a little slow because it has a lot of data and it's trying to pull in all the data, but essentially how this works is when you pull up, you can see that you can hover over, and if you click you can get the analyst estimate. So this the stock data, you get it from MySQL, and that is the first thing that we are doing with an Ajax request. So we have an SQL file. First you create an Ajax HTTP request, so it's a new XML HTTP request, and then what you do is after that you open the request. So what it essentially means is you're opening, if you are getting the information, you use a get request here, and the data that you're getting is from sql.php. So essentially what the sql.php does is it just queries all those data. So what you eventually get is the echoed out data that is in the sql.php file. So here I'm running a basic query to select all the stocks from Morningstar, and after that we have to JSON encode it to get the data transferred back to the app.js file. And the way you do that is you can actually run some queries to see. So here the stock data is ticker, and then array price row. So it gets, or it can be converted to a JSON file, because you get an array here, and the array can be JSON encoded. And when you're making that request, the get request from Ajax from this JavaScript file, what you're getting is essentially the echoed out JSON data that you have echoed out in the stock data, right? So that's what you're getting, and essentially what you're doing is after that you have to, this is a basic Ajax syntax for JavaScript that you have to literally use for everything. And one thing you have to make sure is you'll have to always make sure you, at the end you send the request. I think it should be okay even if you don't send the request, because I think that must have worked out fine. But so once you have that get request, then you have to set the headers, and you can set the header as content type, application, or JSON, because you're getting the JSON data from sql.php. So once you have done that, you have to use the on ready state change for the Ajax HTTP. You can always console log .ajax HTTP and see what are the different states that you can find. You can go to the Chrome developers tools and then console log out to figure out what it is. So what you're essentially trying to do here with the if statement is, if you're getting a correct response, that is, a status is 200 and then the ready state is 4, then you'll have to get that response text from the sql.php. The response text is the parsed data that we echoed out on sql.php. So This dot response text means the JSON data that we have echoed out on the SQL.php file. And now there we have where we have encoded it, and here we are converting that into a parsed object with JSON.parse. And then once we have the content file that is parsed, then you go through the it's usually a JSON object, and then it's an array that you've received as a data, and then you loop through to get the necessary outputs. And then here what I have done essentially is, once I've received the content for one of the div elements in the table, I have created an element, I have changed the text content, and then appended that one to get that table. So, and one of the things, once you have done that, what you can do is, I can show you an example of how that the network data usually works. So when I select the network tab and select the fetch or xhr, and then if you click on one of this, you can see that the first request, or if you first, I think you have to reload it to see the first SQL.php file, you can see that that was the onReady state change that have requested for the file. So if you click on that, you can see that the headers, this is the header that we have sent in. We have mentioned that the application was I think JSON. Here the application is JSON, and then if you look at the response, this is the response that you get, right? So this was all the data that we echoed out or printed out in the SQL.php file. And then you can see, so this is just a GET request, and the only thing that you get is a response, right? Here you get a 2QK, and this is the data, JSON data that we have sent from the SQL.php to the JavaScript, and then we are essentially printing it out as the stock data. Once we have done that, the next thing what I've done is, here you can, with a simple JavaScript file, you can click on this, and once you click on this, it makes two requests, HTTP requests. One is to an analyst.php file, and another is a company.php file. So the first, you can hear, if you click either one of those, you can see that this is the, so what we are sending is usually a GET request. Now I'll show you the JavaScript file later on. So what you can see is this is a POST request that we're making by clicking one of these ticker symbols. So one of the POST request goes to analyst.php, and what we are sending in from the JavaScript to analyst.php is the name of that file, and I'll show you how I've come across this form data. And then once you have sent that form data, once we click this, you send an HTTP request to analyst.php, and this is the response that you get from the analyst.php, and you can see that it's essentially the same that we got in SQL.php. Once we send the request from by clicking on, you send in a request with a name, which you try to get it at the from the file on analyst.php. So the analyst.php first gets the name of the ticker that you have clicked, and then it responds by giving you the output. So this is just the same response.text that you normally get. And when you click on this, I also send another POST request to the company profile. So this is another POST request that I make, and what I'm sending is the same, the name of the ticker that I've clicked on, and then the response that I get from company profile is the profile of that company. So the way I did that through JavaScript is first to add event listeners, you have to make sure you select that element on the ready state change. So if you actually initiate add event listeners outside of the on ready state change, you will not be able to have the elements or the ticker symbols interactable with clicks. So the second HTTP request to analyst.php and company profile.php, and this what essentially I've done is I've looped through, I've selected individual elements or ticker symbols here, and then looped through all of them, and I can know what I clicked by using this dot in a text. So I is the element, and once you click this dot inner text gives me the text content of the ticker symbol that I've clicked. And then once I've done this, after that, this is just for showing the data on the box that I've seen on the site. So ignore this for the moment. And the second request and the third request that I've sent, the second request I've sent it to, it's another new HTTP request, and I'll have to just mention that the new HTTP request, that's still included within the on ready state change. So I'm including all those within the same on ready state change document, and it's not outside. So once I've added, so what I'm trying to do is when I click on one of those stock symbols, then I have to send a new XML HTTP request to analyst.php. This will be a post request because you're sending in data, unlike here where we have a get request. So we have sent a post request to analyst.php, and here I have used a content type as application or URL encoded. You can even use the same JSON encoded data if you have multiple data to be transferred over, and then the send command sends information from the JavaScript file to the analyst.php file. So send info.send, and then I use the name equals data, and this is the data that I'm transferring with the click, which sends in the ticker that I've clicked on to the analyst.php file. And then you add a on ready state change, and on ready state changes when you have already clicked on it, and there what I'm looking for is a response once I have clicked and sent the data. So you don't have to create another get request. Usually when you send a post request to the analyst.php, the response that you get is the eventual echoed out information on the analyst.php. I can show you what the analyst.php looks like. So here I can see that I'm running another query. This is how, since we have sent a post request, this is how I have I'm receiving the ticker that I have clicked on from the app.js file. When I've clicked on, it shows me the text content, and I have attached the text content or the ticker symbol in this case to the name variable, and I've sent it over to analyst.php. And in analyst.php, I have received the name of the ticker that I've clicked on by using the post variable. So for ticker is equal to post name, and this gives me the ticker that I've clicked on. And then I run a SQL query based on the ticker that I needed, and it shows me the analyst note from the database that I'm having, where the ticker symbol is the ticker that I've clicked on. And then eventually I can see that I'll just run a if statement to make sure the result is there in the database. I echo out the data. So it is this echoed out statement that I receive as response text here. And once I receive the response text, right, so you're sending it, or you're sending the data, the post data, to the analyst.php file, and from once the analyst.php file gets the ticker symbol that I've clicked on, it runs a query and then echoes or prints the analyst note, which is actually the response text, since we have printed it out on the analyst.php file, and that you receive here as a response text. So what I then do is the div where I've created the analyst node, I'll append the text, or I'll add the text content for that as the text that I've received from analyst.php. And it's the same principle here for getting the company profile. So I'm sending another XML HTTP request, but this time instead of the analyst.php, I send it to company profile.php, and then URL encoded. The content type is URL encoded. But if you have like multiple data, so you can either you do this, and you can either do this and say it's and then I would say and maybe age equals, and then you can say 14. So when you send this data, right? So this is just like how you get it in a web page, right? It's usually by and. If you're using this, the data that you're getting it. So I can show you an example. So if I do this and if I send it, right? If I save this and if I send the data over, where's my, okay, so I'll refresh this, and so the changes we have made is for the company profile.php file, right? So once I click on the company.php file down here, I can see the response that I can see the payload that I'm sending over. It's taking a little bit of time because there's a lot of data that I'm sending in. So the payload that I'm sending its name as AEEE and then age as 14. And then I don't have a variable for collecting age at company.profile, but I can access that variable in the company profile.php by using variable age equals post age. And then if you want to use the data for any purposes, you can use that, right? So this is how you URL encode a file from by using an Ajax request from JavaScript and send it over to PHP. So so what we're trying to do here is once we send it, so here we don't want the age variable, we just want the name of the data. It's same here. So the data that you're getting is actually the text, the inner text of the element or the ticker that we have clicked. And then you have to add an on-ready state change. You can even use a on load. I think even that works. I think it's load. On load, I think it might work. Let me save this and see if that works. I refresh the page and then I try to, like I said, I try to click one of them. You can see the company, but no, I think on load function, it just doesn't work. I think you'll have to I think you'll have to use the on ready state change. But wait, I might be a little wrong there. But on ready state change. Okay, I've changed it to the on ready state change, and then let me see if that works. Like that, and then try to click. No, this doesn't work. So I've probably made an error somewhere when I was trying to edit the data. Let me see where I have the problem with the data. I think it's probably company profile. I think there should be some post name. Let me make sure this is correct. This shows response name equals data. The name equals data. United States change equals function. Yeah, that should work fine. I think sometimes if we just clear the cookie, sometimes that works fine. Let me see. Okay, now this works fine. I think I'm not sure. There probably would have been some errors when I'm doing that. But let me change that to on load. See, this is on ready state change, but let me see on. If I change it to on load, if there's nothing to send, if you're just getting the response back, you can send. This is the data that you're sending in. Let me try and see if this works. Okay, and then okay, even on load works. You can go to the console and sources and see if that works fine. I think because you're sending multiple requests, yeah, onload also works. So you can either do onload or on ready state change. So once you get the contents back, so you send a post request and then you get the return. The response text is the element that you have eventually echoed out. So whatever you echo here, you will get it as a response text. Say for example, instead of the company profile, you needed just to add a you're adding your name down there, right? I think it's dot, and then so with everything you get a name of the step, because whatever you echo out here, right? So say you echo out your name down here, right? So you get the same thing down here when you echo it out. So I'll show you an example. Let's say you click this, and you can see that you should see the company profile. You have the name at the top. See, you see the name at the top. So whatever you echo out is what you get down here. So yeah, I think that's essentially how you do an Ajax request. Yep.